What's happening, guys? My name is Nicholas Renault, and in this video we're going to be building up from part 1 of my reinforcement learning for trading series. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding custom indicators to our GME trading environment. So this is going to hopefully allow us to get slightly better performance when it comes to applying reinforcement learning for trading. Let's take a deeper look as to what we'll be going through. So the main goal of this video is to build a trading bot that performs a little bit better than the original trading bot that we built in part 1 of our series. Now, the way that we're going to tackle this is to start adding some custom signals to our environment. So a lot of you in the comments on part 1 asked if we could add different types of signals like RSI, OBV, and even a simple moving average. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So in order to do that, we're going to be using Finta to calculate custom signals. So this is a financial technical analysis library in Python. Makes it really easy to calculate these custom indicators. We're then going to take those indicators and integrate it into our existing GME trading environment. So we'll actually be building technically a new one, but we'll have those new signals integrated. And then what we'll do is we'll retrain and we'll test that model and see what performance looks like. So let's take a look as to how this is all going to fit together. So again, really similar to what we did in part 1 of the video, we're going to be using OpenAI Gym and the Any trading environment to be able to work with our GME trading data. The core difference, however, is that we're going to apply our own custom overlay to this to be able to calculate our custom signals. So specifically, we're going to be calculating SMA, RSI, and OBV. So 3 additional technical indicators, which you are asking for in the comments. So we're going to be adding these to our environment, and then exactly the same training process is going to be followed when it comes to actually trading our bot, and then we'll test it out. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we get some significantly better performance than we did in part 1 of the series. Ready to do it? Let's get to it. Alrighty, so in order to get started with part 2 of our reinforcement learning tutorial, we're going to be building up from everything that we did in part 1. So specifically, we're going to be leveraging the code that we wrote inside of the reinforcement learning for trading video. And in here, we did a whole bunch of stuff, but specifically, we used GME trading and stable baselines to train a reinforcement learning bot that ideally should have been able to make a little bit of profit off of GME. Now, we also brought in some GME data from MarketWatch and a whole bunch of other good stuff. So again, we're going to be trying to build up on top of this, but add some new custom indicators. So in order to do that, I'm going to jump into the notebook, and this is the exact same notebook that you're able to get off GitHub. So if you want access to that, by all means, check the link in the description below. So we'll also have all the code for this video available in the description below via GitHub. If you want the code from the initial tutorial, just go to github.com/knacknack/reinforcement-learning-for-trading. So again, if you just go to my GitHub account, I've linked it a bunch of times in the description. You should be able to get all of this code, particularly the code that we had in the previous video, including the data as well, which is obviously quite important. Okay, but in this case, we're going to be building up from that. Now, specifically, so there's not too many changes from step 0, 1. We'll also change one thing there though. 2, the main changes that we have are going to come around here. So I've got a couple of new steps. So in terms of what we need to do to add our custom indicators, and when I say custom indicators, we're going to be adding RSI. So if you're a technical analyst or a particularly interested technical trader, so you're going to have relative strength index. We're also going to have a simple moving average, and we're also going to have the OBV indicator, which is tied to volume. So in order to do that, we need to install and import some new dependencies. We're then going to fix our volume column in our GME data, because what I noticed is that those are actually strings. So we're going to need to fix that up. Again, it's just a single line. Then we'll easily calculate SMA, RSI, and OBV using a Python package. Again, I'll show you how to do that. And then last but not least, we're going to create our custom environment overlay. And then pretty much everything from there on out is very much the same. So we're just going to plug in our new environment to our stable baselines algorithm, and then we're going to test it out. So first things first though, what I did notice is that inside of the data set that we actually had from MarketWatch, this is actually in reverse order. So we actually want it to go from oldest state to newest. Right now it's going from newest state to oldest, which might have explained why we had some weird patterns in our previous trading bot. What we're going to do is we're going to flip this around. So we're just going to re-import our dependencies, and then we're going to bring in our data set, which again is inside of the data folder /GME data.csv. So if we actually open that up, you can see that we've got our GME data. And again, this code is available in the GitHub repo. So if you want to pick that up, you can. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to resort our data, however, so that rather than having it start from newest to oldest, we want it to go from oldest to newest. So let's go on ahead and fix that up first up. Okay, so that's our data resorted. So you can see here that it was starting out at the, what is that, the 12th of March 2021. And now after we've sorted it, we're now starting out at the 16th of March 2020. So we're now in the appropriate sorting order. In order to sort that, what we've done is we've written 2 lines of code. So the first one is df.sortValues. So this uses the sort values method on top of a pandas data frame to be able to sort values. And then we've passed through our date. So this is the column that we want to sort on. And we've specified ascending equals true. So this is going to give us oldest to newest. Then we've also passed in place equals true. And this allows us to apply it to our data frame in place. And then we've gone and showed the first 5 rows of that data set by typing in df.head. So all up, we're sorting our values in this line, and then we're showing the first 5 rows. So that's the core change that we needed to do to our data set, and then we can go on ahead and run through the rest. So again, all this code we wrote in part 1 of the tutorial, so we can test out our environment. And you can see now that it looks like it's in a better order, because what we're expecting with our Gamestop data is that we'd have a big spike towards the end of the data set, and that's exactly when the short squeeze started to happen. So if we actually take a look and change our frame bound, so this is changing how much data we've actually got available within our trading environment. So if I type in 200, and again, we explained all of this in part 1 of the tutorial. So again, all we're doing here is by changing frame bound equals 5 to 200, we're going to show 200 days or exactly 195 days worth of data because we're windowed. So let's take a look at that. And you can see, in fact, that the short squeeze is happening up here. So this is when the stock price did start to rise. And if we go a little further, I think we'll see an even more significant rise. So if we go to, I think we've got 250 days of data. So if we do that, yeah, so again, so now you can see that we're definitely going in the right pattern. So when we built the original trading bot, we were trying to trade or teach our bot to trade on this period here, which is obviously going to be really, really difficult because we've got these huge swings. In this case, we've solved that now, so we've got the right order, so we can actually get on and start building our custom indicators. So first things first, we're going to need to install and import some new dependencies. Now, there's one key dependency that we need to install, and that is Finta. So Finta gives us a whole bunch of technical indicators that we can apply to our pandas data frame, just makes things a whole heap easier. So in this case, we're going to be doing simple moving average. RSI is somewhere down here. But again, you could add in a bunch of these as well if you wanted to. You could add in all of them if you really wanted to. This gives you a whole heap of capability to add in a bunch of additional indicators. So let's go on ahead and install Finta, and then we'll be able to start trialing it out. So we'll need to import it, then we can try it out. Alrighty, that's Finta installed. Now again, I already had it installed, but in order to install it for the first time, you just need to type in exclamation mark, let's just make sure we're zoomed in, exclamation mark pip install Finta, so F-I-N-T-A, and that's going to install all of those custom indicators that we can begin to use within our environment. Now we actually need to import it into our notebook. So let's import Finta, but we're also going to import the stocks ENV class from GME Trading. And we need this because we're going to use it in our custom overlay that we do down here. But again, more on that later. So let's import our dependencies. Alrighty, those are our 2 dependencies, or 2 new dependencies now imported. So I've written 2 lines of code there. So the first one is from gym_anytrading.envs import stocks env, and this is going to give us our custom overlay. So we'll be able to customize our environment to be able to add our new indicators using this class. Then the next import that we've done is from Finta import TA, and this gives us our technical analysis library, or technical indicators, technical analysis library. So we're going to be able to use TA dot a whole bunch of other different technical indicators to actually calculate our new indicators. So if we type in TA dot and hit tab, you can see that we've got a whole bunch of different indicators there that we could try out on our pandas data frame. In this case, we're going to delete that cell because we don't need it just there. we're going to get onto step 2.1.2. So I added this new numbering notation in case we wanted to do more stuff with this tutorial later on. So let's go on ahead and fix our volume column. Now, by fix, what I mean is that if we type in df.dtypes, you can see that our volume isn't actually a number. Right now, it's an object. So if we type in df.dtypes, it's going to give you the data type of every column within your data frame. Now, this is particular to the MarketWatch data set that I've got, but again, this might be perfectly fine if you're using a different data set. And again, remember that you can use a whole bunch of different types of data in this example. So if you wanted to do different stocks, different securities, wanted to work with crypto, you could definitely do that here. So if we actually take a look at our volume column, you can see that we've got these commas in there. Now, you might actually not notice that this is actually a string. But if we pass through our column, so df, and then we pass through our volume index dot unique, you can see that these are actually wrapped in strings. So as of right now, we're not going to be able to calculate our OBV technical indicator because it relies on our volume column. So what we need to do is convert this to a number, specifically a float, to be able to use it. So let's go on ahead and do that, and then we'll have a number that we can work with. Okay, before we run that, let's take a look at what we're actually doing. So first up, what we're doing is we're grabbing our volume column. So by passing through df and then passing through our volume column, this is going to allow us to work with all of the values in our volume column. And then we're using a combination of the apply function and lambda to loop through each value within that column. Then this line over here is actually doing two things. So first up, what we're doing is we're getting our values. So say, for example, we're actually working with the 4866696. We're then replacing all of the commas in that string with a blank value. So effectively, we're stripping out all of these commas so they will not be there anymore. Then we're applying a float type over the top of it. So this is going to convert it from a string, so str, to a float. So we'll now actually be able to work with it inside of our data frame. And then we're overriding our existing volume column with the values that we've now just gone and pre-processed. So all up, what we've written is df square brackets volume. So this gives us, or this overwrites our volume. And then we're resetting it using equals. Then we're getting our volume column again. So df square brackets and volume inside dot apply lambda x. So that means we're going to be able to leverage x as our iterator or our actual value. Then float x.replace, and then inside of our replace method, we're using quotes, comma, and then quotes again. So basically we're passing two values here. So replace has the comma first and then the blank string next. So effectively it's going to replace that. So if we take a look at our df volume column now, you can see that they are indeed numbers. And if we type in df.dtypes, you can see that in fact our volume is now a float. So we're all good to go. Now the next thing that we want to do is actually go on ahead and calculate our simple moving average, our RSI, and our OBV. But again, you could add in a whole bunch of different technical indicators if you wanted to. You could even calculate your own. In this case, we're going to calculate these new indicators and then plug them in. So let's go on ahead and do that. Alrighty, so those are our technical indicators now calculated. So we've written 3 lines there. So df, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's take a look at our results first. So you can see that inside of our data frame, we now have 3 new columns. So let's take a look at some more rows so we can see it all. So we've got our simple moving average column, our RSI column, and we've also got our OBV column as well. Now in this case, you can see some not a number values, and this is because we obviously need some lagging data to be able to calculate some of these indicators. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill these with 0. So let's go on ahead and do that, and then we'll explain all of the code that we just wrote. So if we go back into here, so we're just going to use the fill NA function, pass through 0, and then specify in place equals true. And then if we take a look at it again, we've filled in those missing values. So this just shouldn't cause any issues when it comes to actually applying it to our trading function. Okay, so 4 lines of code that we've written there. So the first one is creating a new column called SMA. So df, and then we're passing through a string called SMA, which is going to create a placeholder for our SMA column. And then we're using our TA package up here, which we brought in from Finta to be able to calculate SMA. So remember, you've got a whole bunch of different technical indicators that you can use, and really all you need to do to calculate the different ones is just type in TA dot and then whichever function you actually want to apply. To that, we've passed through our data frame and the number of periods that we want from our simple moving average. So in this case, we want a 12-period simple moving average. Then we've done similar things for RSI and OBV. So in this case, we've created a new column for RSI, DF, and then inside of our square brackets, we've created a string called RSI, use the TA package again, .RSI, and pass through our data frame. Again, we've done the exact same thing for OBV. In that particular case, we're subbing out RSI for OBV. So this gives us our 3 new indicators that we're going to apply into our environment. And then the last line that we've gone and written is df.fillNA, and then we're filling in all our missing values with a 0, and we're passing through in place equals true to apply it to our data frame in place. And then this gives us this. So we can take a look at our first 15 rows by typing in df.head and then passing through the value 15. So this is going to allow us to take a look at everything that's actually in there. And so you can see now that we've got a couple of different columns. So open, high, low, close, volume, SMA, RSI, and OBV. But again, if you wanted to, you could plug in a whole bunch of additional columns. You could even calculate your own indicators using just standard Pandas functionality as well if you wanted to. So if you had some really specific technical indicators that you use in your trading or you're using your current algorithmic setup, then you could definitely do that as well here. Okay, so that is now step 2.1.3 done. So far what we've done is we've reordered our data set, installed and imported our new dependencies, fixed our volume column, and calculated SMA, RSI, and OBV. Now, the next thing that we need to do is actually go on ahead and apply these changes to our existing environment. So for this, we're going to be using this stock CNV that we just brought in. So effectively what we're going to be doing is we're going to be grabbing our environment, adding a custom overlay to be able to bring in our new signals. So let's go on ahead and kick this off. Okay, so that's the first part of creating our new environments. So what we're doing is we're creating a new function here called add signals, and to that we're going to be passing through our existing environment. So what's then going to happen is that we're actually going to call this add signals function within our environment. So first up, what we're going to do is calculate the starting index. So for this, we're grabbing frame bound 0, which is effectively grabbing, let me show you where it is. It's effectively grabbing this value here. So we're grabbing our first frame value, and then we're grabbing our second one in the next line of code. So if I come back down here, so we're grabbing our start index, which is grabbing frame bound 0 minus our window size. In this case, if we had a window size of 5 and we had our starting point for our environment as 5, then this particular value is going to be 0, which means we're starting at our first row. Then the next line that we've written is grabbing our ending index, so env.framebound1, which is effectively going to be grabbing this value here, so 250, if our environment had that particular frame bound. So why we're doing those is because we're effectively just trying to grab our starting and ending indexes, because when we create our environment, we still want to be able to get the same range of data, which you can see in this next line here. So what we're then doing is we're grabbing our prices. So in order to do that, we've written prices equals env.df.loc. So we're using our location indexer, and then we're basically passing through that we want all rows, and then we only want the low column. Then we're converting that to a NumPy array, and then we're grabbing our start and end ranges. So really this is where these two values come in, because we only want to get the prices from our start to our end components. We don't want to go any further. Then we're doing a really similar thing, but in this case, so for our signal features, rather than just grabbing our prices, we're grabbing our low value, our volume, our SMA, RSI, and OBV. So once you've actually gone and calculated all these custom indicators, you can actually choose what to bring in. So if we didn't want to bring in RSI, or if we didn't want to bring in OBV, we didn't need to, or we don't need to. And then again, we're converting it to a NumPy array and we're passing through a specific index. So we're grabbing our start and our end values. And then we're returning it as a result of our function. So we're returning prices and our signal features. So if we run that, so it doesn't look like we've got any errors there. Now what we actually need to do is we need to apply this to our environment. So let's go on ahead and do that. We'll take a step back and we'll see how it all fits together. Okay, so that is our custom environment created. Now what we've gone and done is we've gone and created a new class called My Custom Environment, and then we've passed through the existing stocks environment to that. So if we take a look up here, so effectively got a bit of inheritance happening. So we're grabbing our stocks environment and we're applying it to that particular custom environment. Then what we're doing is we're going and resetting our process data function. So this is a native function available within the stocks environment. And we're basically saying, look, rather than use the native one, which is just going to give us back our existing signal features, which I believe is price and then price difference, we want to apply this function that we've just gone and created, which is instead of giving us just those two values, we're now going to get our prices, which is just our low value, and all of our custom signal features. Then what we've gone and done is we've gone and created, and in order to do that, we're basically going _process_data equals add signals, which effectively means that we're going to be running this function when our new custom environment is created. So to summarize all of that, so we've typed in class, my custom env, we've passed through our stocks environment to that, colon, and then we're resetting our process data function there. So _process_data equals add signals, which is this function which we just created here. So ideally, we should be returning back our new prices and our new signal features values once we go and create this environment. Then what I've gone and done is actually created a new instance of that particular environment. So by typing in env2, so we're now going to call it env2, we're creating a new instance of the my custom environment class, which we had over here. And then we're passing through a number of different keyword arguments. So first up is our data frame. So this is this data frame that you can see here. So in order to do that, written df equals df. So the first one is what parameter you're setting, and then the second one is actually the value. I always used to get confused with this when I first started out in coding, but this is the keyword argument. This is the actual value to set that keyword argument. Then the next value is window size equals 12. So in this case, we're changing how large our window size is. So in the previous video, we actually had a window size of 5. Here, we're just going to change it to 12. But again, you could play around with this if you wanted to. And then we're setting our training data. So in this case, we've set frame_bound equal to, and we've set this inside of a set of parentheses, 12,50. So this effectively means that we're going to have our data all the way out to day 50, and we're going to be windowing from day 12. So effectively that equates to what, 38 days worth of windowed data. So if we actually take a look at our environment now, so env2, you can see that looks like we don't have any errors there. And if we take a look at our prices, we've got all of our low prices, which should match df.head. So we've got our data starting from low, which should be 3.9, 4.11, 3.5. So you can see these values here are matching what we've got here. Then if we take a look at our signal features, again, now we've got all of our values. So if we try to match these up, we've now got 3.9, which is our low value, 48666, which is our volumes, which you can see there. SMA is 0, RSI is 0, and then OBV is 0 in this first array. And if we take a look at the next one, so 4.11, 3.5 or 3.56 to the power of 06, which is this value over here. So low, volume, and you can see they are matching. So now it looks like we've gone and created our custom environment. We've got our custom environment inside of env2. We can actually go on ahead and train now. So we already had our build and train functionality from part 1 of this series. And again, we can just reuse this. We don't need to go and create anything new here. So what we are going to do, however, is rather than using this standard gym.make functionality or gym.make environment creation, we're actually just going to sub this out for env2. So this is now going to create our new environment here and plug it in. So if we set that and then we go and train on it, this is now going to kick off our training. And you can see that now it's actually training using our custom indicators. And what I actually noticed when I was testing this out is that it does look a lot more stable. So this is probably a combination of factors, particularly the fact that we've now gone and sorted our data correctly, and we now have some additional indicators which should ideally try to train our data. So again, no changes to this code here. You can just kick off the training. So we'll let that run and then we'll be right back in a second. Alrighty, so what I did is actually stopped our training. So we were actually getting a really high explained variance value. So if you actually take a look, we're getting explained variance of 0.999, explained variance of 1, which seems ridiculously high. And again, these are all pretty high values. So again, it's performing way better than what we had in series or part 1 of this series. So now what we want to do, however, is actually go on ahead and test this out, because right now we just have our training values. And again, I stopped this at 48,000 time steps. But again, you can play around with this, see what actually works well for your particular set of data. So in order to actually go on ahead and run our evaluation script down here, we just need to change this line and change it to our custom environment. So let's go on ahead and scroll on up, and what we actually want to do is copy this line here. And if we scroll down, we're just going to paste that over. And then what we can do is we can change our frame bound, because obviously we don't want to use the exact same training data that we used for our particular environment. We want to go and test this out. So if we set this to 80 and then maybe like 120, that should give us day 120 to day 80, and then we're obviously going to have window data. So we can actually go and test this out now. So if we run it, so it looks like we're getting a total profit of 1.17. So this is giving us 1.8% profit over, what is that, like 40 days? So not too bad. And again, it looks like it's a lot more stable. So if we plot this out, so you can see it looks like it's shorting up there, which is a little bit strange. Let's push it out a little bit further and see what that looks like. So let's go to day 250, for example. And it looks like it's actually shorting appropriately when it's got up to the top, but it looks like it's actually shorting quite a fair bit. But again, our total profit now is significantly higher than what we had in our first training run. So remember, in part 1 of this series, I think the maximum that we got was about 50%, or sorry, not even 50%, it was 5%. In this case, we're now up to 0.359. So what is that? 35.9% profit. Now again, this is for demonstration, so don't take this as golden. So do test it out and do your own research. This again just shows what's possible with the capabilities and reinforcement learning. But again, that really sort of summarizes how to build in your own custom indicators, how to fix up the data and reorder it, and ideally how to go on ahead and build a more successful trading bot using reinforcement learning. So if we summarize what we went and did in this video, so in step 1 of the original tutorial, we went and fixed up an error, and we went and resorted our data to be in the correct date format. And then we went in and we went and did all of this custom stuff. So we added our custom indicators, we installed Finta to give us our different indicators to calculate. We reformatted our volume column, but again, if you're using your own custom data, you might not need to do that. This was in the particular case of the MarketWatch Gamestop data that I was using. It looked like our volume column was a string. We then went and calculated all of our custom indicators, so SMA, RSI, and OBV, and you could add in your own ones if you wanted to. We then went and created our new environments. We went and trained a new model. And again, this looked like it was performing a lot better than what we had in our original environment. And then we went and tested it out. So we just replaced this line. We went and tested it out on our new data. And that about wraps it up. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and tick that bell. And let me know what other reinforcement learning trading videos you'd like to see. Maybe we could integrate this into an actual trading platform and test it out in the real world. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace.